So we got a lot to cover today here on the Transformer Slag podcast. We're going to jump right into it. Takara-Tomy on their Twitter PR page dropped a whole bunch of teasers of upcoming Transformer items that are going to be part of their T-Spark line, which is how they label their collector-level products on the Takara side of things, like Studio Series, our Generation-style figures, Missing Link, Masterpiece. And we got a slew of these today to cover, so we're going to jump right into it. First we have here is the Transformers Dramatic Capture series. We got a brand new addition to this line, which they take our Generation style figures and give them the best possible screen accurate paint on it, regardless of the limitations of the paint budgets that we normally have in the West with our price pointing. And we got here today a new Dramatic Capture with Dramatic Capture Decepticon Spy Team with Thundercracker and Reflector, using the Earthrise Voyager class Thundercracker figure along with the Siege Mold Deluxe class Refractor, aka Reflector. Now this reflects, no pun intended, the scene from the very first episode of Transformers Generation 1, More Meets the Eye Part 1, where you have Thundercracker and Reflector, and they're spying on the humans, and Reflector turns into his camera mode, and Thundercracker uses him to take pictures, and he's like, all right, Reflector, let's see what you can see, and that's pretty much it. And for fans of the podcast, they might also be used to seeing that scene because we use it sometimes to promote our live stream on Saturday nights. So no doubt this is going to take that Earthrise Voyager class Thundercracker figure and give it a much more cell-toned, light blue color scheme. The original release with Earthrise, in all honesty, was pretty close to the original animation model to begin with, so I just feel they're just going to take that blue that's on it and just lighten it a little bit, and maybe slight little twists on the tempo and stuff like that. As for the Reflector itself, they're going to take that Siege mold and give it a super screen-accurate coloring, even better than what the Siege version did itself. That mold had an interesting kind of journey to begin with because it was sold as a singular deluxe class in Siege, and you had to buy 3 of them, and then by having 3 of them, you were able to combine all the different accessory elements across the 3 of them to make that camera mode in a combined mode. And then when they finally did a box set of the 3 of them together, they did it in toy-accurate colors instead. It came in a really nice box and stuff, but I think this time around they're going to lean really hard onto the hues of the screen-accurate coloring and cell animation because, it's just finally a way to do this proper for this character and maybe, hopefully, a proper trademark, too. Now, the only issue is that camera mode is way too big for Thundercracker to hold in his hands because he's a Voyager class. So I also imagine, this is just speculation here, I also imagine they're going to take that little Reflector 5mm port camera accessory that came with the Hasbro Pulse exclusive Deluxe Class Centurion drone weapon pack, and maybe even give that a whole bunch of paint instead of just its molded gray. And now Thundercracker will also have a small little reflector to hold in his hand to recreate that scene on top of everything. And then when we get to the Transformers finance side of things, people love it when we dive into this, it's also great for people that have not gotten the Voyager class Earthrise Thundercracker up to this point, because he came in a 2-pack with Skywarp. That was a Target exclusive. It jumped up in crazy value over the past couple of years. I think it sells on eBay now like $190 to like $220 easily, which is like 4 times more than what its MSRP was. So people who don't want to have to break the bank to get a Thundercracker, you could probably get the best version of this mold up to this point, and you'll be one step closer to completing your Seekers. I also feel like this is Takara's last shot with this mold anyways, because we do know in 2026, due to listings online, that Studio Series 86 Voyager classes of both G1 Thundercracker and Skywarp will be a thing in the future. So we'll keep you posted on that. Stay tuned. But still looks very cool. Again, I dig that scene. I have a nostalgia for G1, especially those early Season 1 episodes. They always had a very comfiness to them. So it's cool to see that. And if anything, just the Reflector will probably be the best one we've gotten up to this point, even if the Thundercracker will be improved and replaced later on in the future. Next up, we got a big one here. This is another image that is loaded from the Twitter account of Takara PR, and it's that of Studio Series teaser items. Some we've already seen, and some we're going to be seeing at least in a teaser form for the very first time. First up, we have the Constructicons, Mixmaster and Scavenger. We were both teased these at the Shizuoka Hobby Show last week, and then the Mixmaster was leaked online, and now we got at least a little bit of a teaser of Scavenger, who's just looming there in the background and everything. We're one step closer to completing our G1 86 Devastator in Studio Series. And yeah, man, I mean, we will see. It's just a teaser right now, but it's Scavenger, and we could pretty much figure out more or less how he's going to look at the end of the day. It's just more about accessories and if there's anything extra that we don't know about. After that, we have the Transformers One Deluxe Class Elita 1. This is something Hasbro has shown to us as far back as September 2024 last year during Hasbro PulseCon, so we can kind of skip talking about that one. But speaking of Transformers 1, we also have our very first teaser look at Studio Series Transformers 1 Deluxe Class Starscream. Now, we knew about him coming via listings and stuff like that, but now we have a teaser that shows pretty much how he shapes more or less through the silhouette. It's hard to tell from the teaser, but hopefully more or less he has that sleek design from the movie. You know, it was kind of pulled off great with some of those non-transformable licensed products using the CG model, like Blocky's being probably the best example. So if they could at least pull that off with what Blocky's done and have it a transformable element and everything, it'll be awesome. And then we'll have something that'll be hitting the shelves that I'm sure a lot of us Transformer 1 fans are excited for, because that was a movie that came out of the gate and just did not have high-end products for us, you know, collectors. And it was just unfortunate for its theatrical run. But that's a whole other discussion for a whole other time. And like I always say, with a new Starscream mold comes a new Seeker mold. And with a new Seeker mold comes a whole bunch of new Seekers over the next couple of years. So that opens the doors to a whole bunch of repaints and retools to expect in the future. So expect Thundercracker, Skywarp, Redwing, Slipstream, and many others just from Transformers 1. And the last one, the most loaded one, the most controversial one. Let's talk about Transformers Studio Series 86 Leader Class Generation 1 Megatron. And now, we know he's going to be a tank. There's no getting around that. Up to this point, I felt like if you wanted to get the best G1 Megatron for your Classics Generations flavored collection, you probably had to get the Dramatic Capture Series Voyager class repaint of that Earthrise Megatron, which had that super G1 accurate paint scheme. They really went all out with it. But no one could argue that post Studio Series 86, you know, Commander class Optimus Prime's release, when compared to that, now we have something that's kind of short in comparison to that new Commander class. Especially that backpack tank part also is kind of an eyesore now when you look at it. So now we still have something that's a tank, but leans more on making those tank parts much more thinner and less noticeable, and dare I say the alt mode might even be an afterthought when it's all said and done, and giving us something that leans heavily on making the best possible robot mode we could get that looks like that Fleur O'Deary animation model that we all loved from the 86 movie, the original cartoon 84-85. So it's a lot to take in. From what we could tell from this image is that, yeah, you could still see a little bit of that tank mode peeking out a little bit, but it does have a very sleek Generation 1 animation model robot mode look to it, along with those 5mm pegs on some areas still for interaction with weaponizers and stuff like that. The lightsaber sword weapon that we saw in the 86 movie that he used on Optimus Prime during their final battle looks to be like one of the accessories shown here. We have seen leaks online that he does come with a little accessory of his gun mode to be held, which multiple Transformers over the past couple of years have also had. So that's not really a big, you know, new revelation or product to come with it. But aside from that tank part stuff peeking out, he does look really good. Again, being a leader class, I hope that it just leans more on just having a lot of accessories and fun stuff, and that he scales well with the Commander class. But at the end of the day, you know, as good as this item's going to be, it's not going to be a gun. It's not going to happen. And you know, Japan is probably the only way that we'll ever get something like that, and it'll have to be 100% separate from what Hasbro is doing, like, you know, Missing Link or Masterpiece. You know, it's been done before, and every time it's been done before, it really has been only a Takara kind of thing. So the way that I see it is, while we're getting a Studio Series 86 Leader Class Megatron, and it is interesting, what people really want in the end will probably not be there. Maybe it'll happen next year. Maybe it'll happen in 5 years. Maybe it won't happen at all. But it is something to think about. The question is what do you as a fan want out of your Studio Series G1 Megatron for your Generations Classics kind of scale? Are you okay with it being a tank? Are you okay with just leaving it in robot mode permanently and ignoring the fact that it turns into a tank at all? Is a ecosystem that has a G1 Megatron looking tank something that you would want in your collection? Especially considering that we've had a whole bunch of them to begin with, these G1 looking Megatrons that turn into tanks over the past 6 years. Are you happy with, let's say, if you have the Dramatic Capture one or your Earthrise one? Will that satisfy you and you don't need to get this Leader Class one? I'm sure the Leader Class will look great, and it'll probably do some tweaks and everything that make it look even better than what we've gotten before of other tank Megatrons that have that Generation 1 look to it. But what are your collection goals? Because at the end of the day, the alt mode is going to be a tank, and it's not going to be the alt mode that you would hope for that's true to Generation 1, 84, 85. And this will always be a hot topic. It keeps coming up many times. Even up here on this channel, it always comes up. But at the end of the day, if you want to see a Walter P38 Megatron, it's going to be a Takara premium-only product at some point at a later date, if at all. So that is something to take in, and we'll definitely talk more about this when we see it, because I'm very, the robot mode isn't what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for to see how that alt mode looks compared to the robot mode, and seeing just more the design shortcuts that could be done here. But at the end of the day, this isn't going to be what people really want at their core, because we've kind of already got that stuff quite a few times already. And what people do want is really going to be very difficult to have to be released as a Western product. I know we get into this deep discussion. I did a whole segment about, Megatron and being a gun and how that's difficult and the licensing and everything. Go check out those segments. But for now, this is what we got, and we'll definitely talk more about it as they get more revealed in the future, so stay tuned to it. But we do have a lot more news to cover. It's a loaded week, like I said, last Saturday during the live stream. End of May and all of June is going to be quite packed, so stay tuned here on the Transformer Slag podcast for all the news, and we'll keep you entertained, educated, and informed on all the craziness going on in our transforming robot hobby. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you in the near future.